Hey, I didn't realize I had to cross arm myself to do this. So there you go. It's fine. I forgot I had it on the wrong arm. Hey, what's going on? It's Off the Wall Live. Woo! We literally just finished, Soul, like 30 seconds ago, just finished watching first episode of The Last of Us on HBOMax. Neither of us have played the games. When I posted that on Facebook, some of my friends were quite offended that I said that. But so we went into this totally blind. The Bogz is currently asleep because it's 3 a.m. over there, coming up on 4 a.m. So he's asleep. He's not played the games either. Just kind of doing my own research on this going in. From what I read and saw, it was kind of like a mix of like The Walking Dead meets Logan kind of thing. Just kind of dystopian, post-apocalyptic zombies, that kind of thing. And survival with Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, Gabriel Luna, who I have not seen since Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it was cool to see him back. Lots to get into here. There's a lot to discuss, but it was cool going into it blind. Overall, I'm on board. Soul, what about you?
I am also on board. This was really, really cool. Like, it was a good episode. It was the concept. Some of the stuff at the even starting to like in the earlier, like in the 60s, and that like little bit there made so much for what happens later, which is basically the year of our Lord 2023.
Yeah. I texted you when I started watching it because I was like 10 seconds in and they're making COVID parallels. Like they are not shying away from, because the idea that a zombie apocalypse would start off like a pandemic as this thing just kind of spreading around and having lived through one the last couple of years, felt a little relatable. This one, I enjoyed as much time as we spent in the past in 2003. When it said 20 years ago, I had to do the math. I was like, oh, that was 1980. No, Mike, no, it was not. No, it was not. That was 2003. Oh, woof. But for a minute there, I was like, I wonder how much time. I was enjoying what I was watching, but I was like, how much time are we going to spend in the past?
Yeah.
Like what are we going to see? Knowing that that this was, because the episode's an hour and 20 minutes, give or take. And it really felt to me like we spent that extra like 20-25 minutes just setting up Joel.
Yes.
Through his daughter's eyes.
And the thing is, I like that they did it that way, because typically the way the storytelling would usually do is we'd be set in the here and now, and then they'd do flashbacks in several episodes to really figure out who he is. And you get a very clear sense of who he is, where he started off, and then that really fast forward 20 years. So you could see where he's coming from. Oh, that close up on the watch later in the episode that his daughter like repaired for him.
Yeah.
That close up on that watch, like broke my heart there. Because, and the fact too that he's still having PTSD from it, which I would too.
Because again, I knew that he loses his daughter. That was the most I knew going. He was going to lose his daughter.
I was like, oh no, she's gonna die.
I know. She was so sweet, and all I kept thinking was like the car wreck. Oh, is this where she dies? And then, oh well, no, they rolled away. They're fine. And then as soon as he picks her up, I was just like, oh no, knowing it was coming, but like a testament to how it was shot, and the performances as well. The actress who played his daughter, whose name I don't have in front of me right now, Nico Parker, and did an absolutely stellar job. I mean, for 20 minutes of screen time, and I don't know if we're going to see flashbacks or something like
Yeah.
that in the future as we go along, but she did an absolute stellar job. You felt it, man. They
Yeah.
did a great job of making you give a shit about these people.
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes, absolutely well done.
Yeah. And I really want to go to like that 1968 there when they were speaking about, and I was like, viral pandemics. We know nothing about that.
Oh,
No,
never happened
nothing,
in our
nothing.
lifetime.
But and also the fact too, like in the 60s, you could still smoke on TV.
Oh, I know that was I once I saw it, I couldn't look away from it. I was like, simpler time when you can
Right.
when you can smoke on TV. What has our world become? We can't do that now.
And the fact too that he's like, I'm not worried about viral or bacterial infections. I'm worried about fungus. And then they're like, oh, but this will never happen in humans because they can't be higher than 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And they were like, but imagine if the global warming, like pretty much if the temperature would go. And I'm like, oh my God, are you setting
Imagine
this
if
up?
you will.
I was like, are you setting shit up to scare me for the future? Because I'm already scared enough for the future with global warming. But I was like, okay, like that's the more that was the most terrifying part of this episode was that first part there when I'm like, oh fuck, this could actually happen.
It's always the part that sorry if I yawn, guys. It's 10:40. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. It's always scary for me when the writing is good enough that it makes me believe the science.
Right.
Well, it's like, man, you're really selling me on like I should be scared of fungus now. Like I'm gonna rethink my feelings on blue cheese. Like this is like,
Well, blue
oh
cheese sucks,
no. What?
It's awful.
No, we're done. Show over. Forget it. That's another conversation. But it's did a really good job in a short scene of selling you on this concept. And for a show, considering we know that this is going to be scary zombie kind of stuff. I mean, other than that very suspenseful sequence at the beginning, the rest of the show is just establishing the world we're now going to be spending the rest of the episode is. This is now the world we're going to spend the rest of the series in. I think it's 10 episodes. I think is what we're doing. Of this,
not exactly sure because I know on the wiki it only has the first 3 episodes there.
Yeah. So we'll see. But after tonight, we'll see. I'm not sure what their numbers were because there's lots of football going on tonight too. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Go Bengals. Yeah, whatever. But again, I'm a big fan of world building in movies, TV shows, what have you. I love world building, and I love that we really spent an entire hour and a half really getting to know these people, why we should care about them, and what the world is like that they're living in.
Yes. And the fact that you have just this man who his brother even there, like you see like these little things in it, like the Operation Desert Storm veteran there. It's like, oh, is that his brother or is that him? I kept like in my notes, I kept calling him Pedro Pascal, even though his name is Joel. I kept putting Pedro Pascal's doing this or this is with like.
Look, we all know his name's Din Djarin. It's fine.
Yes, of course. Also, the fact that this is all happening on this man's birthday, like the world goes to shit on his birthday.
Who clearly is the kind of guy who just doesn't give a shit. Like it's just not. He comes across as a guy who's just very checked out. Even 20 years later, they're telling him stuff like, Joel, don't fuck this up. And it's like, wow, he's still just kind of a space cadet. He just gets lost in his own head, it seems like, and just kind of lives life going through the motions, which, is not a bad way to live, but during a zombie apocalypse.
Some of the things that, like, I noticed in first off that it was his birthday, the $20 bills that she's, like, looks at, they're the old $20 bills. Yeah. And I was like, oh, they're so, like,
well done, props department.
That detail there. I'm like, oh my God, those are from the early 2000s.
For his phone. they kept
Yes.
showing his phone, which kind of had me going like, wait, when does this take place? Like, how far back are we right now? Because that's a brick.
Or
I think I had that cell phone.
then you have the fake Southern accent. The Operation Desert Storm veteran there on the back of the. Also, too, like there, I'm like, why aren't they translating the Arabic? Like that the lady was speaking. I want to know what she's saying.
Yeah.
And that happened like later too in the episode where the characters know something we don't know unless the reveal at the end is what that thing that was on the note. But I was like, okay, character reads the note. I want to know what's on that note. Oh, that you have Marlene telling Ellie something, but we're not privy to that knowledge. What'd you tell her? Is it what we see at the end of the episode, or is there something more?
Yeah. Real quick, something I just thought of, because you mentioned the veteran sticker on his truck and all that. And we were talking about how he's kind of a space cadet, but when the chips are down, you can see that those instincts kick back in.
Yeah.
Because when suddenly it's survival mode, it's no, we're going to do this, we're going to go west, we're going to do, and he's on it. Same thing with when they're trying to get who's the new girl, Bella Ramsey's character,
Ellie, thank you.
They're navigating, they're keeping an eye out, plus those emotions and so it's clear. It's like, I almost wonder if there's, and again, haven't played the games, don't know if I'm already calling what's going to happen or not, but I wonder if there's going to be a conversation had about, like, he was a soldier back from being in the military and just kind of just trying to get through life and figure out what that's the reason why he was such kind of just forgetful, was he's just kind of trying to do his own thing and figuring it out as he goes. So I wonder if we'll get more of that as time goes on, as clearly we're going to build this relationship between him and Ellie as we go.
Yeah, and it's really, like, to me, I'm unsure if he's the army vet or if it's his brother. Because the way his brother also was holding the gun and he's the one driving the car. Both. It could very much be both. Yeah. And other thing too is in the what is now 2023 in the show, but back 2003, just those like shots that they have, the way that this is shot, the cinematography, the fact too that the granny like fucking goes like nuts in the background, but the focus is on his daughter, but you see her going nuts in the background, but it's a blurry, and like the way that's shot to be like, oh, she's not paying attention to what's going on behind her. And then later too, seeing the dog, like dogs always know.
And just like any other red-blooded human being, as soon as I saw there was a dog in this episode, I was just, that dog better fucking make it. The dog better fucking make it. I want the final episode of this show to be like, what was the dog's name? Like Misty or something like that.
Yeah.
So it started
Mercy.
I hope that after 20 years, that dog is somehow still alive. Like, I want the dog to make it. Especially when
I was literally yelling at his daughter. I'm like, go back inside. Don't go in that house. And then leave.
I was such a that person in the horror movie, the movie theater. Just, don't go in that house. You see blood on the floor? Turn around.
Yes, which goes later to the episode when they saw like the blood trickling down when they were going from the sewer. I'm like, don't go in there. Why? Leave. Why would you do that?
Leave. Just leave. You know how you solve most horror movies? You just leave where you're at. Yes. wherever you currently are, leave. That's it. You fixed it. You solved it. The production on this thing, like, I was thinking to myself while watching this, like, this is Walking Dead with no strings attached, and
a little bit of I Am Legend.
Yeah, because like, you know, with The Walking Dead, as much as that show got away with, it was still on cable television, so they had to pull back a little bit. Not this show. This is HBOMax. They can do whatever they want to do, and it really just felt like no, we're not afraid to really like we're watching them throw the bodies of children into a fire pile.
Yeah,
we watch.
I was like, that's smart to burn the.
very smart.
Right.
We watch I think a 12-year-old girl is his daughter. You know, we see her get shot with the assault rifle. I mean, yeah, this is Walking Dead and I Am Legend and Logan, but just, you know, I mean, well, Logan was hard R, but like, yeah, they're not pulling punches with this one.
Yeah.
There's been kind of a theme with the things we've talked about on this channel in the past week is don't be afraid to pull your punches, kids. Just go for it.
And now they're living in basically a military dictatorship.
Yeah.
Like it's they're military occupied. The two not pulling the punches, like public execution of people who do not follow the military orders. And I was like, oh, this is brutal. I don't know if this is in the game or not, but this is brutal.
Yeah. They're
And
living in a police state, in a zombie police state.
Yeah. And you have what is like and I love and hate that they call her Che Guevara of Boston, because like, che Guevara ese hijo de la gran puta. Fucking hate that guy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. The reason for awful shit in Cuba, and he's not even fucking Cuban, he's Argentinian. And ask Roca, awful shit in Bolivia too. So fuck that guy. He's not the revolution. He's not Viva la Revolución. He's a murderer. But you do have a revolution, and you have Firefly. But like to like a Cuban, I was like, that's not how you get me on their side by calling her the Boston Che Guevara.
I get what you're going for. Not it.
Yeah.
Again, might be in the game. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, true. So, but you do have, and you would expect this in like shows, like, and also in real life, like whenever you do have a military dictatorship or like a police state or like authoritarian governments, there's always a different like opposite side that comes up, like not in power but does gain traction, and this one is called the Fireflies.
Yeah, it's the embodiment of the term counterculture of, you know, it's the opposition party, whatever you want to call it. Well, one thing I do think is cool is Marlene, who's played by Merle Dandridge, which is the woman who's with Ellie up until she leaves at the end, she's played by Merle Dandridge, who actually played her in the game.
Ooh.
She's the only one I've seen who is actually reprising her role from the game. Everyone else is either new casting or there's a couple of original characters they've added to this. I know that the production wanted to stay as close to the source material as they could. There's a couple characters here and there and things like that. I'm sure that people who have played it will like or dislike, but they said they tried to keep it as close to it as possible. Which I think is kind of the way to go. I think we're in a time where, I mean, we still have yet to really crack the code on adapting video game properties. We've gotten close, but I mean, the ones that people tend to like the most are like Sonic the Hedgehog, Detective Pikachu. Yeah. You know, Mario's coming out later this year, and people are kind of on the fence about it right now. So
Bowser looks awesome in that.
Bowser looks great. The animation looks fine. The problem with that movie is not the animation. But like, we thought Assassin's Creed was going to be the one to crack the code. Hasn't happened yet. We've had 3,000 attempts at Resident Evil, and none of them have worked. You know, we've had 2 or 3 in the last couple of years alone. So taking a swing on a video game property, especially one as beloved as The Last of Us, you know, if you're gonna aim for the king, you better not miss. So so as somebody who has not played the games, I very, very much enjoy this episode. I think the world building was fantastic, the storytelling was great, the cinematography, the production, and man, Pedro Pascal is just he is such a goddamn good actor. I want to rave about I want to go one by one through the main cast here and talk about them. Start with Pedro Pascal. This is going to be the year of Pedro, because between this, the fact
and
that
Mandalorian,
because we're doing this live now on Sunday night. allegedly tomorrow during Monday Night Football is when we're getting the new Mando season 3 trailer, which is coming out in a few
March
months.
1st.
March 1st. So a month and a half. So Pedro Pascal is having a great start 2023 from the looks of it.
Yes.
And I was very impressed with how I don't know if they de-aged him for the past or aged him for the present. Either way,
kind of just put some gray in his hair.
Yeah. Either way, it's a good looking dude. So
Yes.
I mean, you can't go wrong.
Either way.
Yeah. And especially when you compare it to like his character in Kingsman, it's very different. I thought he sold this character of Joel 100%. I thought he was so good.
Yeah. And he still has a little bit of himself that we see in the past in the future, in the now.
Yeah.
And that is the testament to what a great actor he is, because he's living in a completely different world. And not that he was kind of like the kind of dad is like, oh, I got a lot of work to do and like life isn't perfect, but you do what you do kind of thing. And that kind of comes to the present. Is like, gotta do what you gotta do, kind of. Obviously not as happy, doesn't have the light of his eyes with his daughter, but so he's a more hardened individual than he was, and he already seemed a little hardened by life in the past, but not too much. But he's still there's still through lines of who he was back then to who he is in the present in this first episode, and that's something really hard to do, and he does that really well.
Especially with the way he was portraying Joel in the present. This is going to get confusing.
Yeah.
In the present 2023.
Right.
I was definitely feeling like I was feeling Mando tingles, and I was like, this is why you cast Pedro Pascal. This is why that quiet,
to see that beautiful face,
because he's not wearing a helmet this entire time, but just that quiet intensity that he delivers, even when he's saying something monotone but still intimidating, he's able
when
to.
He's just standing there, like he looked intimidating, just standing there waiting for the info from Tess, who's a boss ass bitch.
Yes, she is. He has got such a statuesque presence.
Yes.
I mean, he walks in the room and it's just, I don't know who that is, but I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do.
Yeah. Including, it was like, I think I have here where there was the thing of where what's on the wall, like go into the light, or like when you see darkness, like go into the light kind of thing. And he's like, if you tell me go into the light, I will like fucking kill you.
Walk away. This ain't it, man.
Away.
And then we get
when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light.
That's what it is. Yeah. We get Gabriel Luna playing his brother Tommy. Again, Gabriel Luna, I haven't seen him since Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's not a slight. He played Ghost Rider for one season. Is it Danny? I forget which version
I
of.
did not watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's fine. You don't need to. But I'm sorry, Craig. A friend of mine was a writer on the show, and I love him to death. It just the show couldn't keep me. But the season with Ghost Rider, Gabriel Luna's portrayal of Ghost Rider was fantastic, and I was bummed that he didn't do a whole lot more between then and now in the last 5-6 years, that between when he did that and when they were filming this. He's had like some one episode appearances here and there, and then he was in Terminator Dark Fate. The less said about that, the better. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't a good movie. We don't get a lot of him in this episode, but he's with us for most of the opening, and I have a feeling we're going to see him back.
Yeah, we know he's alive.
Yeah, and he's listed pretty high on the cast list, so obviously he's going to be back a little bit. There was a great cavalierness to him that I really enjoyed, and Gabriel Luna is a very charismatic guy. I really hope we get to spend more time with him in this show, a lot more time with him, because I don't know the games, so we're going to say that a lot.
Yeah.
Talking about this show, like, just get used to it. We don't know the games, so
yeah.
I'm sure all of you are in the comments right now, like, but he died. Like we don't know. we don't know. Really enjoyed him. So I'm hoping we get to see a lot more from him soon.
And you really see the relationship that they act like brothers. They literally do feel like brothers in just the way of even him there eating like his like chicken wings because there's no pancakes or breakfast for him.
Eat your leftovers, man.
Yeah, like and it was literally like that, like you hate them but you love them kind of like sibling relationship. Anyone who has siblings, you know what it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
And they portrayed that really, really well.
Yes, they absolutely did. And then we get into the other big star of the show, Bella Ramsey. Liana Mormont is in this one, playing Ellie. We get a nice bit of episode with her. She is intense. And we knew that from Game of Thrones.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fuck you.
So good. I mean, this is a little girl that we watched take out a troll, or take out a giant. So I can't wait to see it, because she was, every time she would pop up in Game of Thrones, when she would talk somebody, when she first talks down Jon Snow, good stuff. I need more of that immediately, and getting to see that transposed into this, we're still getting a lot of that attitude, a lot of that spunk, a lot of that.
She likes her knife.
She likes, don't just let the girl have her knife, man. Like, look, because otherwise you don't want to know what's going to happen when she gets it if you don't let her have it, because she's going to get it and she's going to stab you and it's going to suck, and then you got to kill a cop, like and then you got to kill a cop. That's what happens.
It's going to be a rough night.
It's going to be a bad night, guys. Look, you should have just but also for the guy to be like, you get half off on the pills and
get all off.
I was also like, dude, they're giving you everything they're about to get plus, like, honestly, that's a pretty good deal. Like, you're gonna hold out for all off. They were giving you a pretty sweet deal. Let them, now you're dead.
Do you feel a little bit like, for a second, when they made him like a drug dealer kind of for a little bit, I was like, Narcos, because he was in Netflix's
that's funny. I didn't think about that.
Although he's like he's a cop and he's not selling drugs in that. I was just like, that's funny.
that is kind of funny, actually. I didn't think about that, but also it just speaks to the idea of like, whatever you got to do to survive, like whatever you got to do. It's a shitty world we're now living in.
And hey, Atlanta, drugs and bullets.
Look at somebody from the South, 2 people from the South. Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, Atlanta.
I mean, technically I'm from the South, but I'm also technically, you can call Miami North Cuba.
So that's true. I mean, I'm in Ohio now. I'm in Dayton, Ohio, which is the fentanyl capital of the freaking country. So, woo, go drugs. No, don't, kids. Don't. Absolutely not. But it's just, and that just, again, goes back to, and we've got this resistance organization, Firefly. Why it gotta be Firefly, man? Don't you know, naming something Firefly means you're just gonna end way before you're supposed to? I'm not bitter about that at all.
Can we talk about like my low-key, you know how like there's side characters and like one becomes your favorite, even though they're a side character, and it's the communications guy.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and
he's great.
Literally, my son, the smart one, not the other one. God bless him.
He's just a guy who's got a job and he's just trying to do it, and he's just trying to live his life. And he's like, look, I got 2 sons, and one of them's fine, the other one's dumber than dirt. And you know what? It's not his fault. He just is. I don't let him touch the radio. He does whatever he's got to do.
And literally in that moment, like just those few lines, you learn so much about this guy, and it literally, I laughed out loud. Bless his heart.
And we also,
I was like, they say that up in Boston. Bless his heart.
Well, and we also know if you're in Boston, they just call you're a fucking idiot, and but also we learned that he can smoke unfiltered, because as soon as he lit that, I was like, ooh. As a former smoker, I was just like, ooh, you tough motherfucker. Okay.
I mean, look at what they're living through.
Yeah, at that point, take what you can get. It yeah, he was great. I wonder if one of his I wonder if his bad son's name is Lenny. That's a it's a really go read a book, kids. If you don't get that one, read a book. This is turns out The Last of Us is a prequel to Of Mice and Men. um yeah, we got a lot of cast we haven't met yet that we're gonna meet. We know Nick Offerman is in this. We saw that in the last trailer that we watched before this came out. Um, I don't know. Part of me is tempted to go pick up the game and try it out, but part of me also is like, I kind of want to watch the show first.
See, that's the one. As nerdy as I am not a video game person.
Yeah,
Yes,
I love a good video game.
I
So
will watch people play video games,
you're one of those.
and maybe that was growing up. My older brother would play, and
Hmm,
I would watch, so I wasn't playing. So
that's
like I
fair.
will watch people play, but I'm not one to play because I'm. Anytime I've tried to play like video games, it's not like Mario.
Right.
I'm just not very good at them. Like
I'm
platform games all day, every day.
I mean, like from what I've seen of the gameplay, from what I have seen, it looks like something I would be totally into. I just haven't. Like, it's not like I've avoided it. It's just I'm a casual gamer at best. You know, I've played through the Batman games a million times, and I love me some Worms Armageddon, but and the Sims. I love me some Sims. Eek flab adorable, guys. What can I say? So, but I at this point, I'm like, I kind of want to just finish the season first, and then I'll play it. Um, I don't know how strongly it's adhering to it. Somebody else can let us know, but I yeah, we'll see. People, but like I said, when I told my friends on Facebook I hadn't played the games, they were just like, "What? Okay." They were
and
kind of gobsmacked.
and it wonders too, like I wonder in the game if they build out the world as much as they've built this out in the first. Like even speaking about when you go past these quarantine zones of these cities, they're like it's basically like the Wild Wild West. You got raiders, you got slavers, is what they're speaking of, and that's where they're going into now because uh our boy Pedro Joel
Mhm.
is going to Wyoming to that's where the tower is, which I'm like, is there only one tower for communication? Like what happens when that tower goes out?
Great
And
question. It's hard to say. I mean,
speaking of communication, I love that they use the top 40s as
hell
as
yes,
communication from
hell
like
yes.
and the fact is song came through at the very end and he wasn't there to hear it. So
No,
what's that code?
was Depeche Mode is what it was. So whatever. I had to Shazam it because it was a different version of that song that I knew the song, but it was like a remix version of Never Let Me Down Again by Depeche Mode.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we know 80s is bad. So but what's bad? We don't know. And
Yeah.
you know, you talk about like did the games world build as much as I kind of feel like you kind of have to with games these
Yeah.
days. Like stuff, especially for it to be as because when you know I made the comparison to Logan earlier. Well, when Logan came out, it was compared to this game. As
Mm.
far as the story is like that relationship with the older guy, you know, which granted that's such an homage to like the hawk and chick type things, you know, the older guy
Mhm.
with his young daughter, those
Yeah.
old like samurai movies. So Hawk and Chick is from Bob's Burgers. I forget what the actual Lone Wolf and Cub. That's what it
There we
is.
go.
Not there.
I was
Hawk
like,
and
how
Chick.
can she?
Hawk and Chick is the Bob's Burgers version of it. This is the first one that came to my mind. Watch Bob's Burgers. It's a fantastic show. So when
Yes,
Logan
lone wolf
came
and
out,
this is definitely a lone wolf and cub.
yeah. But when Logan came out, I remember those comparisons to like, oh, this has got elements of The Last of Us in it. So this is kind of just coming full circle because this gives me very strong Logan vibes as well as like
Mhm.
Walking Dead, you know, Z Nation, I Am Legend, that kind of thing.
It's some things of that like I want to know is Marlene and Joel have a past. It looks like
Something. Yeah.
something, and the reason his brother's not around seems to be because of her. So I don't
Yeah.
know what happened there. If we'll find out what happened there. also, she's the one that put Ellie kind of in that, I guess, would it be military school or
Something like that. Yeah.
something of that nature, under the military occupation, under their control, because that was what would keep her safe.
Mhm.
So I wonder what the original plan was for
Well,
her there. And I want to know, because like it seems like she goes red, as in to show that she's been infected, and then she shows her arm and
yeah,
basically says, I've survived way longer than anyone else has
she's immune.
being infected. So was that, again, when I said earlier, was that the secret that we find out at the end, or is there something more with her?
I think a lot of it's going to come to her being immune. I think is what it's going to come down to, because if she's got, she's got that mark on her arm, which shows that like it was a wound that's healed. She's
Yeah.
infected, but she hasn't turned. So I think a lot of it's going to come down to the fact that she's got some kind of immunity to it.
But why would
So
that make her? And I'm wondering here, like, if she's immune,
mm,
then you want to make sure she's like, I would think that the government would want to make sure that she stays alive to then maybe figure out a way to defeat unless this military state loves their power too much and doesn't want a solution.
that's
So
yeah.
I'd like, what is it that if people know she'll die?
I have a feeling it's something to do with the fact of like she's a bargaining chip, because right now the thing with the Fireflies is they're trying to get free of this kind of police state thing that's going
Mhm.
on. So there's probably a good chance the government wants to keep, if the government's aware of her, they want to keep her under wraps,
Yeah.
because they don't want people to think, because knowing there's somebody out there with an immunity could incite panic, because people are going to start
Yeah.
rioting, wanting. So, but also, we you hear conspiracy theories about it all the time, like, oh, is there, if they found a cure for cancer, they would find a way to monetize it, and only the richest would be able to beat it, that kind of thing. So it's probably something similar to that, where some of these, there's probably like extremist cells and things like that akin to Firefly, who who would take her and, you know use her in some way, whatever the case may be. It's a lot safer for her to keep that to herself until they can figure out some kind
Mhm.
of plan, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, we only got a ways to go.
Yeah. And I wonder, you got Marlene knows, Kim knows, and it seems like everyone else in Firefly did not know.
Right, because they were like, why do you have this kid chained up in a room?
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
So, and I love to just follow fucking orders, which to me, when I'm watching that too, they live in a military state, in a police
Mhm.
state, and then they're the revolutionary people. They're revolting, but then they're also being told to follow fucking orders.
It's the double-edged sword of it. You've got
Yeah.
to, like, you on one, there's a difference between it being in a police state, obviously,
Yeah.
and just having a chain of command. Like, there's
Yeah.
obviously a difference in that. But you're right, there is some irony to the idea of somebody who is a part of a rebellion getting uptight about doing what you're told. Like, there is
Right.
irony to that. Yeah. um and I'm curious to see. I almost wonder if Joel is a member of Firefly, the way they talked
Or
to each
I think
other,
he used to be.
or used to be.
Yeah,
because
I'm having a feeling that he used to be a part of it.
because we know that he and Tess are married, because she mentions as much, that why she got beat
Yeah.
up.
I don't
um
know if they're married. They could be lovers. I don't get the like
well,
feeling.
she said like they were mad when I told them I was married to somebody else, or something like that, when she was telling them,
I
when she was explaining her bruises and stuff like that.
uh
She mentioned something.
I must have missed that. I didn't hear the word married, but yeah.
Oh, I had the captions on. So, but because I always do, because whatever. But also HBO Max, fix your captions, because you make the text way too big and it's splitting words in half, and that's stupid. Don't do that. But I would, because I was reading before we got started here, just to get some background and stuff like that. So I guess in the game, they left their relationship kind of ambiguous, but they wanted to spend more time with it in the show, because obviously if it's a video game, unless you're playing Mass Effect where you're just trying to bang aliens, you're not going to spend as much time necessarily exploring this relationship in a game, whereas in a show, if we're going to spend time with these characters, let's get to know them and more about their relationships and create drama, because what it is at the end of the day.
I guess like in my mind, I would think that no one would be like married in that time, like unless you were married beforehand, because like what courthouse are you going to like, you know, sign over the documents and everything? I feel like it would be more of just like, oh, coupling happening.
Yeah, it's they're probably married in whatever definition of the whatever semblance of marriage is in the world. I don't know. We'll figure out more as we go, I guess.
Yeah.
The only thing I was a little confused on was the exchange Tess was having with the guy about the battery before the explosion happened. Because on the one hand, he's like, listen, I didn't mean to screw you over. But then she's talking to him like, look, can we just let this go? And I was like, wait, who's mad at who right now?
I wasn't confused there.
Okay.
I think basically what it was to me is that Tess was buying the battery off of this guy.
Okay.
And because this guy sold it to someone else, Tess was probably confronting him and they had to hold her hostage kind of thing. And I think his guys beat her up before he showed up kind of thing is what I was feeling, is that they fucked up. And that's why she was like, punish them however you want. I'll forget that this has happened. Even though like in her mind, she's like, fuck you. I hope you die. We're going to me and my man are going to get revenge on you. Like she's trying to survive. Because literally, I think the whole thing is, if he thinks they're going to go after him, he has to kill her right then and there.
Right.
So that's why she's like, I'm not mad. Everything's cool. Just let it be. And that way, that's how she gets out alive before, you know.
Yeah, which I think is what
everything went to shit with the bomb. Like if I think if they didn't blow up that, he probably would have let her go in that sense, because she's kind of like convincing him, I'm not gonna do anything to you. Where in her head she's like, I'm gonna fuck him up.
I'm gonna get my battery back, bitch. But like if that's my only complaint, is that in one scene I personally was a little confused as to what was happening, which could easily be fixed on a rewatch or with you or Sean.
I agree with Sean. Yeah, she's the smartest one in the room, and
Yeah.
she's trying to manipulate the situation to get out of it alive.
Which is cool. Yeah, again, that's my biggest complaint, was this one for a minute and a half. I was like, wait, what? Okay. And then I moved on. It didn't matter because the guy was dead the next time we saw him anyway. But yeah.
And the battery was shit anyways.
And the battery was useless. So, oh, well, damn, we could have just not done any of this. Wow, episode over, guys. All right, cool. No show. Everything would have been fine. Yeah, it was real cool. This was such a cool first episode. I kind of wish they dropped 2. Kind of glad they didn't, because it was a lot.
I'm kind of glad they did, because it was an hour and 20 minutes and we got a lot out of it. And I think it gave us enough and ended on a good enough like cliffhanger to think about it for a week before you watch the next one. And this is kind of one of those shows so far, as what I'm seeing with this first episode, is you have shows that are better off just binging. And then you have shows that are better off watching week to week. And after watching this first episode, this seems like a show that's better off week to week. Yeah. But there's other shows that you and I have watched where like, this would have been so much better if they just dropped all the episodes.
Yeah. Like Wednesday. I'm so glad I got to binge Wednesday. As much as I loved it, I don't know if I could have waited a week between episodes, but I love the show. But with it being an 85-minute, because Sean's right, 85 minutes is a lot. I'm wondering, are they all going to be like this, or was this just because we wanted 20 minutes on top to set up everything else? Because because here's what I'll say. So when I compare this to like other shows, like because I watched a lot of shows last year, I watched way more shows than movies I did last year. Part of the reason I jumped off of the Rings of Power was because, like, for the most part, it was very boring. The episodes were like an hour long, but at like the 30-minute mark, I'd be looking at my phone like, what are we doing? This is moving so slow, and it's taken us 15 minutes to say something that could have been said in 2 sentences. Like, what are we doing? With this, it's an hour and a half, give or take. And so my fear going into it was, am I going to get bored? Because an hour and a half for a first episode of something I know nothing about is asking a lot of me. I was hooked the whole, like, I didn't look at my phone once except to check and see how late it was because we had this to do. So I wanted to make sure, because we had to bump the time a little bit, because I looked at the clock and I realized we're not going to be ready for 10:30. So that's not going to happen. But
I guess I didn't have that fear. And maybe because it's HBO. And it's not just HBOMax, it's HBO.
Yeah.
Where, like, if this was just an HBOMax show, I might have that fear. But because it's HBO and I kind of, like, trust them, then I was like, okay, I think this is going to be good.
That's fair. I also wonder, too, because personally, John Oliver comes back in a couple weeks, and I don't want this to screw with John Oliver. But, yeah, I'm curious to see. And also, too, again, not knowing anything from the game, is this whole season going to be one game? Or are they breaking up one game over multiple seasons? Because it's 2 games. It's a part 1 and a part 2.
Well,
so
it looks like Sean's comment here says, if you look at the upcoming season, it looks like they're doing the whole first game in the first season.
Oh, see, I didn't watch the upcoming. Once the credits started, I turned it off. A, because we had this to do, and B, because HBOMax, HBO shows have a tendency with their first episode to be like, here's everything coming this season. I don't want to see that. I'm good. Like, I want to go into it fresh. So I try to avoid those usually. Once the show starts, I don't watch trailers for future episodes, because why I'm watching the show. So I guess they're gonna do the whole game. So I wonder, I wonder how this is gonna go, because if they're gonna do an entire game in one season, and again, I am guessing it's 10 minutes.
10 episodes, you mean?
10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes, guys. This is we're doing 10-minute animated episodes, like it's from the directors of Robot Chicken. Seth Green's the EP on this. No, so then if it's only 10 episodes, I really wonder what the runtime of every episode is going to be. Then if they're all going to be an hour and a half or an hour, because I mean, House of the Dragon was 10 episodes and they were all 50 minutes tops. So,
and I think too, with HBO, they know what they have, and they can play with their runtimes, and they have played with their runtimes before, and it's pretty much like we can do whatever the fuck we want with runtime. That's where like when you think of like Marvel and like, oh, we have to do this 6-episode format and they have to be this long. It's just like, who said that? You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Embrace episodes longer than 30 minutes, Disney. I'm just saying. Good God.
Yeah. So like HBO has
a big pain point for me.
I know. We're like, so HBO, we've seen that with House of Dragon. We've seen that with Game of Thrones. We've seen that with their other shows, that they aren't afraid to play with runtime when they need it for whatever story they're trying to portray in that episode.
Yeah, absolutely. It's HBO. HBO has never shied away from. Look, HBO put the Snyder Cut up, guys. It's a 4-hour Justice League movie.
4.5.
4.5. HBO put that up. Like, say what you will about everything going on with Warner Bros. Discovery and all that, but like, when they feel like they've got something, they're willing to put in the time and effort with it. So if they're still willing to give this thing, to let a video game property have a 90-minute premiere on a Sunday during the NFL playoffs, like, that shows they have a lot of faith in it, because there's a lot of things that could be distracting from this right now. So they know, like, no, people are going to watch this. They might not watch it at 9 o'clock on Sunday, but by the end of the week, everyone will have been watching the show.
Yeah.
So I'm confident, and it just, I think it also just speaks to just, I really like this first episode.
Yeah.
It was very good.
It was a solid premiere, which sometimes you don't get, like, a lot, because like a premiere episode,
it's a lot. You got a lot to do.
There's a lot to do, and there's a lot of like a lot of shows that have like bad first episodes but are great shows. And this one so far, this was a great first episode, and the cops agree outside.
Absolutely, they do. They know what's up. Because there's been plenty of shows. The pilot, the very first episode of Parks and Rec is terrible. The very first episode of The Office is not great. Like, I think of a lot of shows that had a first episode. Like, I'm sorry, the first episode of Supernatural is not very good either. There's a lot of shows that go on to have both these beloved franchises and huge fandoms that, a pilot episode, there's a lot to do. Now, granted, in broadcast television, it's even harder because you have strict timing. You got to follow commercial formats, content formats, and broadcasting regulations. So on a streaming service, you get a little more leeway, a little more freedom to, again, like, let's spend an extra 20 minutes in this episode and build up the backstory here. They could have easily just started in present day and just peppered in flashbacks here and there, and let us figure it as we go. They're like, no, let's take the time. Jason is saying that
that's what I was just about to pull up.
So, as people who don't know the game, I'm sorry if I'm sounding hoarse, guys. I'm just getting over COVID and it's late and we've been talking. He says it was very close to the game. So that gives me a lot of faith that they did what I think more video game adaptations should do. And it's like, if something is this beloved, just do what they did. Just follow their story. Don't get too adventurous. I know there's a couple characters in here that are original for the show, but other than that, it's like, if you can make the fans of the game happy, that's half your audience right there that are going to be built in. And then you just got to pull in some new people who maybe, like you, aren't gamers, but they'll sit down and watch a show.
So I think we liked this episode.
A little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. No, it was all right. That was very good. It was very good. Yeah, this is excellent. I'm actually thinking I'm going to watch this again. To watch that scene again that we mentioned earlier, to see if I can pick up what you guys are talking about. But also, just, I wonder if there's other little things I can pick up on watching this. It was very, very good, strong start. And let this be a lesson to anybody else that wants to adapt a video game. Just give it the time of day. Is all you really got to do, because you can make the fans happy. Any final thoughts, Sol?
I agree with you. And Jason, I already said earlier that I'm not a gamer, as he says, play the game. So
yeah, so I haven't played it either. Bogz hasn't played it. Bogz isn't a big gamer. When this season is over,
Bogz only plays Star Wars games.
Bogz only plays Star Wars games. He knows what he likes. He knows what he likes. And look, most Star Wars games, even some of the worst Star Wars games, are better than most things. But I will, when the season is over, like when I finished watching the season, I'll buy and play the game. Because look, Jason, man, dude, I'm a busy boy. I'm a busy boy.
Just ask him how he feels about the fact that I don't like blue cheese.
Look, I'll spend an hour and a half talking about how good blue cheese is. Yeah. So Sean's saying, at this point, wait till the season's over. Then, if you're not a gamer, play it on easy and just enjoy the story. I'll
just watch the story like on YouTube or something.
Tell you what, I'll play it and stream it, and Soul can watch me play it on Twitch. How's that? Because she likes to watch me play games. She can watch me play it on Twitch.
This episode was really, really good. Pedro Pascal is just both a phenomenal actor and easy on the eyes.
Yeah, no.
And the fact that just like there's so much that you could pick off of the background of these characters in just the first episode. I'm really excited to see where these characters go forward.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Bella Ramsey, because I know what she can do in a Patriot was Daddy. We know what she can do in a Game of Thrones type setting. And we got a little bit of her. We didn't spend a lot of time with her in this episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else she can bring to this character, knowing what she was able to bring in Game of Thrones. Because I was looking online here. Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann reached out specifically to Benioff and Weiss at Game of Thrones about her when they were like, put us in touch with her, like, we want her. They went to the big bosses and said, get us her. So I'm super stoked to see what else she has. No, Jason, I have not seen the movie she was in, but I will. Hit me up on Discord or something, or on Facebook or something later. We'll talk about it. But yeah, guys, I think that's gonna just about do it for us here. Our first live. I don't know if we're gonna do this every week.
I'm gonna try to make him do it every week with me.
It's not a matter of whether or not I want to. It's a matter of whether or not I can. Because
I'll make sure he doesn't take any melatonin.
Because your boy is working on Rent. So he's working on a production of Rent with community theater. So it's gonna depend on my weekends, but we'll try. And if we don't do a live, we'll at least get a review up for you guys, because I'm locked in for this. So thank you guys for joining us in the chat, everybody who did. And if you're watching us on the replay, let us know down in the comments. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you didn't like, and let us know just how fucking off base we are with everything we've said, because we don't know the games, and let us know what disappointments we are to you because of that, and then watch me, and then make sure you watch me stream it on Twitch after the season is over. That's all I'm saying. So comment, like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. All our Twitter stuff is in the description of the video, and we're gonna peace out, and we'll see you guys again next time here on Off the Wall. Bye.